However you are and whenever you are, welcome, good souls, to this planet, and welcome to Paranormal Now. This is Alan B. Smith. Join us as we take off through the universe and we traverse through the cosmic highway of paranormal portals and tantalizing turnoffs. We have a jam-packed lineup tonight for you, so strap in and do a system check on your flux capacitor because in the second hour, we have Lisa O'Hare, who is with me. She's the author of Abducted and Furious. So you don't want to miss that. At 8:30, Charles Smar, known for his wise insights on ERRT Radio, joins us. And to start, we have or had, we're not quite sure, the hosts of Universal Secret podcasts, but we have one of them at least to start, and that's Kevin Hale. He'll be joining me in just a moment. As a friendly reminder, in the last half hour, every show we do open lines. So that number to call in is 855-472-5483. That's 85-KGRA live. So we'll give you the cue to call in roughly around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And chime in. Bill, our producer, will get your name, where you are from, put you in the green room, and then we will bring you on. I always appreciate your insights, your feedback, and your experiences as well, because that's quite central to Paranormal Now. It's all of our experiences. I do what I do here, and you listen most likely because you have had an experience yourself, or you know someone who had an experience. So tonight, it is about experiences. And if you have something to share, please contact us throughout the show. You can do that either on Facebook or on YouTube. You just go into the platform itself where this video is streaming, go into the comment section, ask your question. I'll see it, and then I can highlight it and put it on screen for you, and then we can ask our guests your question. Or if you just have an experience you'd like to share, type it out or call, like I said, later in the show. The other alternative is to keep in touch with us on Twitter at paranormal_now or on Instagram at paranormalnow. Yes, so KGRA is expanding their video platform. So many more hosts on KGRA are doing the StreamYard hosting. And we really enjoy this because it just feels like we're so much closer to you. And this is an interactive experience. It always has been, even before it was just when it was just audio and radio. And I just want to thank you all again for continuing to support this show. So let's bring on Kevin Hale. And Kevin, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Alan?
Good, brother. Good, brother. So quick story. We were supposed to have two other hosts from Universal Secrets who did not show up, but I'm glad you're here with me.
They actually have a good reasons, but I'll carry the banner for us tonight.
Yes, exactly. So for everybody who is listening and does not know, Universal Secrets Podcast is a new show, not a new show, but a new show for KGRA's lineup. And actually, Kevin, you took Paranormal Now's old spot, Tuesdays, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I feel like the minor league got brought up, the minor league team or minor league player getting brought up to the big leagues. So you went off to bigger and better. And we're,
I appreciate that. I don't know if that's quite the case, but I'll take it. But yeah, Saturday nights are fun for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're always, if you change time slots, you're always going to get a different, listening audience for the most part.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see how the audience grows. How do you feel? You had your first stream Tuesday, right?
Well, that was the plan due to the acts of God, if you will, the hurricane/tropical storm that kind of went through the eastern or the northeastern half of the U.S. last week. It kept us from doing a live stream. So our official debut will be this coming Tuesday, August the 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And what's the topic?
Well, it's Nick Redfern's our guest, so the topic is going to be everything from men in black, women in black, UFOs to cryptids, Nick has got his hand in a lot of places, so it's just going to probably be almost a 2-hour conversation of paranormal stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting you said women in black, because often we just associate these strange encounters with men. Have you heard about other encounters where it actually is women? And what does that mean? Are they dressed like men in black, or is it different?
Now the stories are that they're not necessarily in the the suits with the dark glasses and the hat, but they play a similar role to what the men do as far as coming in and greeting potential experiencers, and either putting the whammy on them or trying to talk them out of what they experienced to that degree. So I know, the women in black thing I'm not real familiar with, so I'm definitely gonna get more out of Nick for that topic.
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience yourself?
No, uniquely of the three of us, I'm the non-experiencer, and I actually don't think James has either. Tiffany, she'll go on record, she's an experiencer, and which collectively, Tiffany being an experiencer, she's got history actually with KGRA. She had done a show in the past.
Yeah.
And James is the guy that will read every book, every article. And he's the guy that will, when we do our shows, and we've the three of us have done Universal Secrets since March as a podcast. And he will come bring to the conversation some very good information out of the source, whether it's a book or documentary, whatever. And I'm the guy that kind of, for our sake, just kind of brings it all together. And
Right.
And I'm probably more of the entertainer as well.
A little soft shoe.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why would you even want to get into podcasting in the first place about this? I mean, there's a lot of us out there doing it, right? What's your motivation?
No, that's a great point, because I've been a fan of the paranormal as a kid. Again, I've not had experiences, but I'm very open-minded to anyone's story, anyone's conversation. I've always found it very intriguing. I've been a real enthusiast of ufology, the whole UFO thing, alien thing. And, when I started podcast, I actually have podcasted. I've been podcasting since 2014. And so periodically I would get to do some paranormal shows with the other podcast I do. And then Tiffany, James, and I decided, we're big paranormal fans as well, to put our heads together. And between Tiffany's access and some people that I know, we felt like we could pull off a good podcast, or paranormal podcast that is slightly different than other people. To your point, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and how are we different? Probably first and foremost, it's very unscripted. We probably come to the table with at least one question, but I structure the show for the most part, as I've been producing it, as a conversation. We'll start with a question and let it flow for 90 minutes. And so, if it's 90 minutes of paranormal talk, great. But if the guest wants to talk about their favorite sports team or music, something different to get to know the person, that's cool with us too. So
yeah, that's what I like about podcasts, is that you can do two totally different types of podcasts. One is very formulated, very edited, and then one that's more like freeform radio, and that's what it sounds like yours is like.
And I pay respects to the people who do radio shows or podcasts where it is very structured. for me, it's just I want it to be loose. I want it to. Is my other podcast is a cheesy plug here. My other podcast I do is called Shooting from the Lip. So it's a shoot. It's just conversation, and that's what I really pressed for Universal Secrets, and it's worked out so far.
And do you stream that live first and then record it, or
the Universal Secrets, the pocket?
No, shoot from the
lip. Actually, I stream it live on my Facebook page, and it's catered to my hometown or the city I live in, Louisville, Kentucky.
Do you ever just let things slip that you kind of wish you didn't at some point?
It's live, so I mean, you kind of go with it, and for unlike here, the KGRA, and I totally respect it. There's certain restrictions for what you say. On the podcast we do, speak freely, nothing's off the table. So podcasting for several years, comfortable doing it. I enjoy doing it. I'm all about a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like for the most part, anybody that we talk to, I come in to the podcast with at least this much, to discuss, enough to carry a conversation, but a lot of times I'll listen and take a lot out of it because I'm intrigued by whatever topic we get or discuss or guests we have on, and just go with it.
What do you think has more credibility, ufology or the research into ghosts and hauntings, paranormal as a general phrase?
That's a good question. With both. Well, let's start with the ghosts and spirits, and there's all these devices and all these little gadgets that can track, and that's not something that I'm a lot into. I'm definitely more into the whole UFO thing, but I do love to hear a good ghost story or ghost experience or an investigation. I'm hoping in my lifetime that I get answers to a lot of questions that we all have in the paranormal.
Do you think we're going to actually get answers?
Well, I've said that there's the three greatest questions to ask us. And this is my opinion, and a lot of people would probably agree. One, is there a God? Two, what happens when we die? And three, are we alone in the universe?
Mm-hmm.
I really think in our lifetime, and I'm a science guy, so you can kind of know where I'm going with this.
Sure.
I think we're going to get a definite answer to one of those questions, and it was the last one in our lifetime. I think we're going to find out for sure. It's kind of happening. Things are coming out that, the Pentagon, and between the videos that were released in 2017 and acknowledging that, they may be otherworldly. I think we're going to get the answer. I've always felt like we're not alone in the universe. It's just a matter of
I don't know how I feel about that, because since the 1950s, generations have thought that it's going to be this decade. It's going to be right around the bend. I can feel it. It's coming, and then it never comes. Now I get that, there is more public discourse and dialogue in the mainstream, which means the general public is getting warmed up again to this.
Right.
Because in the early 50s, it wasn't necessarily taboo for the most part, and then it became very taboo. And so now we're going back to that state of mind where, hey, maybe it's not so crazy to talk about this, right?
Right.
I don't know if that translates to actual disclosure, because there is a practicality, and that's the argument that's being made, is that we need to know what the heck is going on in our skies. It's unavoidable now because of those videos and more, I'm sure to come, that there is something moving around that is unidentifiable.
Mhm.
And so we have to talk about that. But when that article was it 2 weeks ago, in the New York Times came out saying that we have allegedly recovered materials of extraterrestrial origin.
Otherworldly.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Otherworldly. I think like they can't say extraterrestrial.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Um, that to me is a little bit more exciting. But
Mm.
at the same time, the Washington Post came out with an article after that and was kind of slightly tongue in cheek, covered it. I felt like it was obligatory for them to cover the story seriously because the New York Times did, but they didn't take it that serious.
I
And
think
so,
a lot of the reason why it's not being taken as serious
Mhm.
is that it might have been in, 10 years ago or 20 years, is that it's the whole UFO thing, UFO alien thing is so ingrained in our pop culture right
Mhm.
now. When those articles came out, you know, a conspiracy theorist may play the card. Well, look, this information is coming out while we're in a pandemic, experiencing a pandemic. So there's this: are they deflecting this and that? I don't know, but I do think it's going to happen. And one of the other things I think has to play into account is you got guys like Elon Musk, who's who has come out and acknowledged that he believes in aliens, and that he had this big thing the other day where he said that aliens helped / built the pyramids.
yeah.
And I don't know if you saw that, but
I did. And
Egypt actually.
Zahi Hawass went on a tirade about it.
I thought,
Um,
but going back to Elon
yeah.
Musk, he's I think he's forcing the Pentagon, the government, to have to take a stance because he's getting up there in space. And if he
Yeah.
sees something,
Mhm.
I think he's going to say it. He's going to tell it.
Well, I think because he really wants to get to Mars as soon as
Mhm.
possible.
Mhm.
I think that's the most pressing desire of his, uh, and that's because I think in part that he wants to find out once and for all confirmation of life on Mars, whether it's ancient or not so ancient, right?
Right. Mhm.
Whether it's microbial or something a little bit more complicated. And I have to say, it is just so aggravating. Um, when they first started sending up rovers in the late 90s to Mars, that was really exciting.
Right.
And then it was like they just kept kicking the can down the road. We're going to test for A and B this time. We're
Mhm.
going to test for A, B, and C. We're going to why not at this point just send a rover that collects samples and work with SpaceX and or whomever, and return those samples to Earth, and then find out for a fact or not, or you just have the the proper equipment on the rover that can actually
Mhm.
do the testing.
Right.
Spend that instead of doing two missions, take all that money and make one big rover that can give you the answers. And we know they can. We could, if they wanted to, we could find out if there's life, bacterial life, or was bacterial life on Mars, and they just haven't done it.
Alan, stop making sense. That's awesome. My curiosity too is that if the whole UFO alien thing gets disclosed, what
Mhm.
does that do for shows like ours?
Oh, I think that it doesn't affect them. And in fact, I think probably more people would listen because I think immediately when people hear about this sort of thing, they're going to go online and just start listening to whatever, going to
Mhm.
YouTube, podcasts, and they're just going to start listening because they're going to think, oh my gosh,
That's where I'm going.
all these people who have been talking about this for years, I'm curious to see what they've been saying because clearly they were right about
Mhm.
some aspect of it. At the same time, I think you're going to get people who are more mainstream and scientists that start podcasting about this openly as well, and that's going to attract people.
Yeah.
Um, I think that people who discuss these topics more speculatively, um, those who well, actually, I was going to say those who are more speculative may not attract people, but at the same time, it's like you have the UFO cults of the 1950s, right? I think you'll get that too, Kevin. I think you'll get people who all of a sudden are turned on
Right.
to extraterrestrial life, and will start seeking happiness through that, like they do now, but I think actually more so, because you'll have more podcasters that are opportunists and
That's
see a chance to sort of evangelize others into whatever, cult version of their alien contact that they have.
Well, they're not going to take our spot because we're doing our thing.
Universal
My other thing too, real quick, is when it comes to the mainstream media, prior to 2017, the release of those videos, whenever they played discussed UFOs or aliens, it was tongue in cheek, and there was a picture of the "I Want to Believe" poster from Fox Mulder's office, as well as the X-Files music, in the background. Not so much right now. The mainstream media, whether it's Fox, CNN, whatever, are having legit conversations with with the who's who in the ufology field, and so yeah, it's interesting. But I do still, I'm gonna go on record to say that we're gonna get that answer in our lifetime, and whatever the answer is, I think we're gonna get it.
I think that the X-Files really missed out on a huge opportunity.
My favorite show of all time.
Were you not disappointed in what happened to it in the last 2 seasons?
Oh, that was those 2 seasons were the worst. None of those episodes. There's over 200. I know that none of those episodes come close to my top 50. So,
yeah, no, yes, I agree. I think there were a few that were good standout episodes. They were solid, but it just fell all over the place. I was like, where are you going with this? And I think they missed a golden opportunity, because it was what, 20 the reboot was in whatever they call it was 2016.
16, yeah.
And 2017 is when the article came out.
Oh, right.
And so all this buzz happens,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come back with the last that final season.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what you're doing right now.
I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
And then during those reboots, Fox Mulder goes from basically a guy that was getting his butt kicked for 7, 8, 9 seasons, and then he was this, he was kicking butt,
like a savior kind of guy.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay. So to leave us on a positive note before we go to break, what excites you the most about the paranormal?
It honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, it's that unknown. It's the fact that we still do not have real answers, right. And I'm along for this ride, and for the most part, I've got 2 steps, on the wagon to go along with my friends and people that I enjoyed talking to, listening to get those answers. And it's been fun. So,
all right. And how do people find out about Universal Secrets?
Universal Secrets, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at UNI Secrets Pod, POD. Mm-hmm. Again, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We will do our debut show on KGRA this coming Tuesday, August the 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We are backfilling Alan Euro spot, and we hope to do that spot, do it right, for you. Our first guest, if I can go and plug it, Nick Redfern will be with us Tuesday night. So looking forward to being a part of the KGRA family. Good people, and let's have some fun with it.
All right. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you, man.
All right. See you around, brother.
All right. Take care.
Okay. All right. So we'll be right back on the other side with our guest, Charles Smar. And jumping in for Ron is Carol Carl. Ron from Earth Radio is not feeling so well. So we'll have Carol and Charles on the other side. And some interesting news for y'all listening. If you've not noticed, on YouTube, I've not been producing much content. And there's a reason now for it. The other reason before was COVID-19, and things have changed and I didn't have time. moving forward, there will not be that much content dropping on YouTube on Paranormal Pop channel, because I've decided I'm going to take all of that energy and effort and focus it into one big project. So that whatever that project is, I'm not ready to share it yet with you, but I will at some point. It's going to take probably about a year. That's my guess. So no artificial deadlines, but I'll be putting my energy and spare time into that, which I'm very excited about. All right, this is Alan B. Smith for Paranormal Now on KGRA Radio. We will see you on the flip side.
Lost in a bad way, cost me my family. Chaos around me, can't hear my heart say, hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
In 2019, the KGRA is closing down its archive vault to be reopened in another format in the near future. This year, you can get all the 2019 KGRA programming on demand on YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Play. More ways for you to stay connected to your contact for alternative talk radio on the planet, KGRAradio.com.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Alan B. Smith on KGRA Radio. You're listening to Paranormal Now. Thank you all for joining us. The bumper music taking us out of the break was by Septembrio with AY.com if you want to find out more about them. And so it's been a little upside down. Well, we lost two guests in the first half hour. And unfortunately, we lost Ron Toldfar. He's not feeling well. So Ron, if you're listening, I hope you feel better soon, brother. So we have now Charles with us and Carol jumping in, and I appreciate you both doing that. Carol, Charles, how are you?
Hi. How you doing today?
Hi, Charles. Good to see you again.
Oh,
and
so,
Ron, you got to get better. We need you, dude. I've been working on my impression of you, but it's still got a long way to go. So this is just going to be just my voice tonight. Yeah.
And Carol, it looks like you're literally behind the obsidian curtain tonight.
I am, and it's a long story, and but it's the sty from another planet still hanging in there, and vanity prevails. I am sorry to say, but yeah, just so I'm not screen ready. I'm not ready for my close up, Mr. A.B. So yeah. So anyway, that's irrelevant. Charles, I'm looking at your background. It's really cool. I mean, I don't mean your CV or your bio. I mean what you're sitting in front of. It's like, yeah,
junk. What is it? A creative chaos.
Oh yeah. Oh, the best kind.
Well, for everybody listening, if you don't know Carol, she is the host of Behind the Obsidian Curtain on KGRA Radio, and Charles Smar is a co-host on ERT Radio, ERRT. And Charles, we haven't had a lot of time it's been probably a couple months, and we had like an actual conversation, I think.
Mhm.
And a lot has changed in the world of ufology, and I just wanted to hear
Yes.
your take on what's going on.
I hate to say this, but I'm not terribly impressed with too much.
Oh,
Interesting.
It's just my own particular. I mean, we've been as you said before. We've been here before. There've been, oh my goodness, this is going to happen, and we're going to finally see this extraterrestrial material is going to be run through the lab, and they're going to tell us. And the point is, even if it were, and there's nothing to prove that it is, but even if there were, do you really believe that they're going to tell us what it is and how it works? I don't think so.
Right, but what would be the point of even having the conversation in the first place if they have no plans?
Oh, well, that's certainly a good way to set up funding.
Military funding.
Sure.
So they
you can't be talking about those crazy flying saucers and things, but you can talk about possible enemy unmanned aerial vehicles. So look, I hope this is the breakthrough. I hope it is. I really do, but I'm not invested. I think there are so many things that are happening in the paranormal world. It's becoming more normal every day because people are talking about it now. It's like they didn't talk about it, ever, not like it is now.
Yeah, I guess my perception is a little off because I grew up through the in the 80s and 90s as a kid, right? So I think my perception via the media was that this was sort of acceptable to talk about because there were so many programs like sightings, unsolved mysteries, and just movies and television, the X-Files, right? It was a conversation in TV Guide every week. I grew up with this perception that it's more acceptable to talk about, which probably led me to have conversations with people later in life that I probably shouldn't have had, at work. But, and then I realized as I got older that there really were a lot more people than I thought that really thought you were a nutcase if you even entertained the idea.
Well, it was especially really, I'd say, and I'm totally dating myself, but I'm really not as old as I'm going to sound here. Back in the 50s and 60s, it could ruin, a sighting would ruin your reputation.
Yeah.
Ronnie, look at what happened to those that are in the know with the different cases. Look at what they said about Ronnie Zamora, one of the best cases ever. His sighting in Arizona. Was he in Arizona or New Mexico?
New Mexico. I think it was New Mexico. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And even the best cases through that era, up until and probably including Travis Walton's case.
Yeah, no,
those were made. They were made fun of. They were ironclad cases.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
well, the Lonnie Zamora, the Socorro case. If you go online, people who are listening, if you go on YouTube and look it up, you'll find there's video footage of Lonnie Zamora. He was the police. I forget his rank, but he was a police officer at the time, and he was on the site, and he saw this object. He reported it, and they went back and investigated it. The FBI was involved.
There was trace evidence.
There was trace evidence. NICAP was involved. Blue Book was involved. The Air Force was involved. There were so many people investigating this. It's unbelievable. And the fact that you have because from that period of time, there really isn't that much video footage. Carol, can you recall any other cases?
I wasn't even aware of the video footage, and thank you for that. But I
Yeah.
do remember it being what Lonnie Zamora described as an egg-shaped craft.
Yeah.
And is that the case, or am I thinking of the Johnson case?
No, that was an egg-shaped craft. You're correct.
Okay. And did Zamora have like a sunburn thing on his face, and that was sort of later, of course, dismissed, but initially perhaps, and I hope I'm not confusing this with another case, but that would be some kind of at least physiological evidence. I think it was the supposition for those who not wanted to believe, but who saw this as something otherworldly. And, as Kevin Hale observed, we can't say extraterrestrial, but otherworldly, some kind of like a burn from radiation or some exposure. I hope I've got that right.
I don't particularly remember that on that in his case.
But
he did have insignias.
Yes,
that he was able to reproduce that he saw on the side of the craft.
Right, a kind of a strange hieroglyphic.
Something like an A, but
it was like an A with like an arrow line going through it.
Right, now I'm picturing it. Yeah.
Oh,
in red, I believe,
about that is that
on the craft.
To my knowledge, since then, I don't think there's been any organization that has accounted for that insignia. And company,
right, because it was, it could have been that this was something like some sort of a landing thing that ejected, in other words, a government project that we didn't know anything about, weren't supposed to know anything about, where something had been.
At that time, it would have made some kind of sense if it were a prototype lunar module.
Okay, right. That's kind of where I was going.
Except for the fact that we didn't have anything and don't have anything today that could do that performance-wise.
Well, yeah, and so the interesting thing, and what makes me think maybe it was government, maybe it was technology based off of Roswell, is because he described the craft as struggling, and it had a kind of like a rocket, a flare coming off of it. So there was combustion involved there,
right?
And so it did like a soft landing. It seemed like an emergency landing, and when it took off, there was some thruster and kind of a noise, right? And the ground was charred to some degree, the surrounding bushes. But then once it got in the air, it went silent, and it wasn't using a thruster, and then it just glided off. So it was a craft that used different forms of propulsion and or maybe electromagnetic
some kind of an enhancement,
right.
Perhaps, that removed its mass would be, I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me.
And I wouldn't imagine it would be a dirigible.
And you would take a conventional. You could take a conventional small. If you can remove your mass, a small rocket will do remarkable things.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If you take all the mass away. So, I mean, but this is all blue sky stuff. It doesn't exist in the literature or the experimental open source stuff.
Right.
But it would sure make the simple, reasonable explanation if it did exist.
Well, in regard to this, it's an older case, right?
Does anybody remember the date on that? On the Zamora case?
I want to say 65 or 66. I'm not.
Yeah, so that's pretty early on.
Yeah. If anybody on YouTube or Facebook remembers the date offhand, could you please comment down in the section? So in regard to these old cases that are really interesting, right? I think the mark of mainstream society and the media accepting or taking very seriously the potential of ETs visiting here is that they, not us, right? They will also cover stories of old and look at these sightings more seriously and from an investigative journalist point of view. Because right now they're just kind of going along with what the military is saying, right? Like it's contemporary. It's enough to put out a story without committing to an ideology or the belief in aliens coming here. But I think once journalism really starts taking it seriously, they're going to look at all kinds of interesting cases and share that with the public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of us are going to be going ho-hum to some degree because, like, we know this, we've been there, we've researched this to our own ability, especially post-internet, which has been, in that sense, being able to look up the classic stories and the details, that is a godsend. But I'm just, and then the other thing, this is something that Kevin Hale was mentioning, the idea that, is this distraction journalism? Is this, sleight of hand magic? Is this, distraction magic? I think is where I'm going. Look over here, not at this, right? Is this something like that? And how would we know?
Right. Actually, I'm not sure about the distraction thing, but I think, Charles, your point is a good one, that they're trying to allocate more funds to the military, but it just still, again, it seems like a really odd way to do that. Couldn't you create some other kind of threat instead of these weird things in the sky?
No, I don't think so. I think they have to make it look and seem like a credible threat, because you and I both know, and I absolutely believe, that if there were a hostile force out there that was capable of moving from one stellar system to the other stellar system, we wouldn't have as much of a chance as of an anthill fighting an atom bomb.
Sure,
we'd be toast.
Yeah, Carol, what do you think? Do you think that's a legitimate move on the military or the special access programs or whomever?
The military. I just hardly speak military. It's something that's so profoundly likely to be buried, obfuscated. That again, that's a whole other asset or aspect really to this, and the assets we have in terms of I don't know, how would we even begin to fight something in outer space? That sort of is beyond me. I'm also thinking it was very interesting. Rodrigo Vieira. Do you want to read that, Alan?
Yep, Rodrigo Vieira. The Lonnie Zamora incident occurred Friday, April 24th, 1964, at about 5:50 p.m. on the outskirts of Socorro, New Mexico. Thanks, Rodrigo.
Thank you. That is terrific. And as I remember reading about that guy, he had been in that community in his capacity for quite some time. He was really well respected. He got along very well. He was kind of their go-to guy for the public. And there was nothing about the man he was not a teller of tall tales, for instance, that kind of thing. But what did you ask me, Alan? I lost it completely.
Well, do you think that the military would use UAPs as a way to allocate more funds? Is that a reasonable approach, or does it backfire on you?
Well, no, actually, that resonates as a possibility. What's interesting is that they would go out on that limb, that they would choose the idea of some critters from another planet, in our space. And so funding wise, that makes sense. And I'm also thinking back to what Cheryl Costa said, having been a military contractor for some time. She remarked years ago in one of her blogs, New York Skies, that the allocation, when it was made public that Harry Reid was able to get that $22 million allocation, that she saw that as a drop in the bucket as far as military spending went.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So what's the future then? What's the next move? I mean, okay, so maybe they get some funding. I mean, what do they get? A few more billion?
What's changed is they started out with the military.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
It was the I'm sorry, I can't remember. It was a Navy incident, or two or three different, but it was all military footage.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it may not have come, then it's chancy as to where it was, its exact provenance.
Right. And you're talking about the Tic Tac UFOs?
Yes.
Yes, right. Kevin Day,
Tic Tac and Gimbal and the other one, I can't remember.
Fast Walker?
Fast Walker. Yep.
Yeah.
So, see, that's different. So there was before they. I don't think there's ever been an acknowledged military or United States military contact with a proposed extraterrestrial.
No, certainly not officially. No,
not officially. Okay, the plane crashes back in the 50s were all said, well, it's just pilot error. You know, he climbed too high and was asphyxiated and lost control of the aircraft or whatever. There weren't any that were said that it was actually hostile.
Okay.
Okay. Or not that I can ever remember hearing.
Well, I mean, it depends.
These are potentially hostile. And
yes, it depends if you are disabling a nuclear weapons security system.
That could possibly be interpreted. Kind of hostile, yes.
Right.
Yeah, I would say kind of sort of where Montana. What was the incident? I'm unfortunately the names escape me. But that was where the guys were the
missile silos.
Yes, and the guys who were could put their fingers on or off the buttons. Nothing worked. It was all it was down.
Well, one story that I heard was that they went down, and when they went in and checked them to make sure everything was okay, that the missiles had all been retargeted, but no one said where they had been targeted for.
Ooh, that's kind of spooky. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I was not aware of that part.
Oh yes.
So
That's
hopefully
pretty
they were
well
put back to
established.
and so they were put back to their original targets. One would hope and suppose, because I'm thinking Moscow. Oh my God,
To my recollection, that most of the witnesses to that claim that those particular warheads had to be replaced.
Wow.
Well, the question is, did they replace them because they were afraid that they were faulty, or just because they'd been interfered with?
I would think that because they had been interfered with, and probably not because that whatever they replaced them with was any greatly better. But I wouldn't want to take that chance.
Yeah.
You have something that can be modified on the fly, and
pun intended, I'm sure.
Yes.
Wait,
you'd have to change it out.
Online on Twitter, all over social media, when the New York Times article came out talking about materials that are otherworldly potentially, people were celebrating and vindicating Bob Lazar. And what do you think? What do you think that Bob Lazar, his story as a whole, holds up?
I think it does. I think his story, because there are parts of his story that didn't come out until this last movie. At least as far as my recollection of it, there were a couple of things that didn't come out before, that did come out now. That and it was in his descriptions of the physics of how he theorized that the propulsion system with the 115 worked. Okay,
right.
I don't remember ever hearing the detailed description back in the day that I did with the recent movie that they did.
When he initially spoke of element 115, it's my understanding that it was theorized in scientific literature. And then it really wasn't until, the early 2000s, I think, maybe, where they actually were, for a half a millionth of a second, were able to create it, and that it didn't last. But I mean, that also gave him credence. But then the scientists were saying, well, yeah, but it's not stable. So it's.
But they did theorize even back in the day in his when he first came out that there was a possible island of stability in the nuclear geometry, basically, and it's still possible. I mean, there are probably a dozen different forms and isotopes of 115.
Right.
It wouldn't be exactly an isotope. Well, it would depend on the neutron number, which would possibly be different, and the geometry of the structure of that nucleus. We don't know. I mean, yes, they created one in a cyclotron that was marginally stable, which means it lasted for a few billionths of a second. Okay? But that doesn't mean that there's not a stable isotope. We just didn't get it.
Carol, what's your take on that?
Ooh, see, that's sticky because that part of science, unfortunately, is shall we say, above my pay grade. But I have to ask. Okay, well, but no. Hey, well, it doesn't sound like it exactly. But I'm just going to ask you guys: is 115 what's its status as far as being recognized by the science community as we know it? Is it in or is it out?
It's in.
It's in.
It exists.
It is in.
Is it ununpentium? I think is what the international body named it.
I don't know, but James Cameron uses unobtainium in all of his films.
Right, love it. It's so close. Yeah, and both of them sound like great band names to me.
Yeah, totally right. So this screen that I'm sharing with you here, this is the Identimat 2000.
Yes,
that Bob Lazar apparently had described, right? So, but the only problem with this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be problematic, is that this device, as you see it, was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's film in 1977. So there's two questions. One is, how did Steven Spielberg know about this security device? Because it was classified at the time.
So what do you think? Happenstance?
I don't know. I feel like he was given a tour maybe and saw it and said, and came back and said, "Hey, let's use this in the film." It was really, really odd because my understanding is these biometric machines that would measure the length and dimension of your hand were not the most reliable, and they eventually were kind of thrown out by the early 90s. Yes. But it wasn't until about 1986 that they were public and corporations were looking at using this. But up until the mid to early 80s, it was a classified technology. But but this is the weird thing is that if assuming that this was used in S4 and Bob Lazar saw this device,
right?
Maybe he did see it in the movie Close Encounters before that. Maybe he didn't. That doesn't negate the fact that this device is a real thing. My question is, Jeremy Corbell in his documentary finds this device, prints a picture out of it in the documentary, hands it to Bob Lazar and says to Bob, "Is this it?" And Bob says, "Yeah, that's the device that I remember being." And I'm thinking, well, Jeremy Corbell had multiple times before stated that he loves Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? He also said that he was looking for years to find this device. And I'm not saying that Jeremy is lying or anything. That I'm just wondering, how did he miss it in the film? And it just didn't register with him until later, or what? I'm just a little confused on that point. How that worked out.
Yeah, that's curious.
It's curious.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah. I would think more likely that he wasn't aware of that particular bit of information from Lazar.
Okay.
That he may have, as he was studying to do the documentary and do the background on it, he may have come across it and said, "Oh, wait, I've seen that somewhere before."
Right.
Which could just as well be what happened. You'd have to
that it was stuck in his subconscious
ask him and get it. Yes.
Right. Let's ask him. Hey, what a guest for you, Alan. But anyway, I'm thinking circling back to the Steven Spielberg thing. Pretty early on the internet, there was a meme that suggested that Spielberg had been given access by the government, et cetera, to all kinds of, for instance, oh gosh, what's the planet? I'm bailing on this. It was the idea that, you remember at the end of Close Encounters, the guy's going back up to the planet Serpo, planet Serpo.
Oh,
right.
yes.
Right. That all of that, and goodness knows where that really lands as far as the truth is concerned. It's really baffling for me. I used to be an absolutely that's impossible person. And then, as things came my way information wise, it was like, well, that could possibly work. But the idea that Spielberg had access to this information that we didn't, and put it into the film in subtle ways.
It's just, it's fascinating. Because for years people are saying that Spielberg is disseminating information on behalf of.
Yep.
And maybe that's true. I don't know. But thank you so much, Charles and Carol for jumping in last minute too. I really appreciate the conversation.
Hey, any old time.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Carol.
Good night,
Okay.
Charles.
Thank
Good
you
night,
so much,
Alan.
everyone, for supporting this program. We are going to go on a quick break. And then when we come back on the other side, we're bringing Lisa O'Hara. She is an alleged alien abductee. And her book, Abducted and Furious, is it's a fascinating account. And so we're going to cover that and get her take on not just what happened to her, but how does one deal with that sort of experience afterwards? It's the topic that tends to come up a lot on this program. And I'm guessing that's because it's not addressed enough in the world of ufology. This is Alan B. Smith for KGRA Radio. You're listening to Paranormal Now. We will be right back.
Lost in a bad way, cost me my family. Chaos around me, can't hear my heart say, hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio App from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio App now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio App, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
Pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad.
Kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
In 2019, the KGRA is closing down its archive vault to be reopened in another format in the near future. This year, you can get all the 2019 KGRA programming on demand on YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Play. More ways for you to stay connected to your contact for alternative talk radio on the planet, KGRAradio.com.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Alan B. Smith for Paranormal Now on KGRA Radio. So, a reminder, not so much content will be coming to the Paranormal Pop YouTube channel. That is because I am working on a project which maybe in the coming weeks I'll announce, but it's going to take up a lot of my time. So for all the people who are Paranormal Pop channel followers, please forgive me for not dropping content there as much as I normally would. But I promise you that the project, when it comes to fruition, whenever that will be, hopefully within a year's time, we will have something that's really exciting to share with you. Now, I want to bring on Lisa O'Hara. She is the author of Abducted and Furious. Lisa has a BS degree in business administration from San Jose State University in California, where she lived until 2011. She worked for many years in law firms, starting as a floater legal secretary and ending up in information technology on the IT help desk, and sent on to become a network administrator in other industries. She is now enjoying retirement. Since retiring, she discovered she was a psychic medium, and that knowledge was the catalyst for many discoveries about herself, one of which was that she was an ET abductee. After reading Terry Lovelace's book, Incident at Devil's Den, and Terry's been on Paranormal Now, she wrote to Terry Lovelace, and he encouraged her to write her own book detailing her ET experiences as an abductee. She now lives in Arizona with her husband and 2 Maine Coon cats. Lisa O'Hara, welcome to Paranormal Now.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, abduction is a difficult topic for a lot of people to even accept, right?
Yes.
How has it been for you to even bring that up in a conversation? How do you start that?
I actually don't always bring it up. I mean, sometimes I say I wrote a book, and then some people want to know about what I wrote about, and other people don't. So because of that, if they don't care that I wrote a book, then they don't ask, and if they ask, then I have to talk about it.
Yeah, okay, that's one way to do it. Lisa, your level is a little low on the mic. Can you increase that or get a little closer to the microphone?
Okay. Yeah, I try. Let me see.
All right. So my understanding with alien abductions is that there are generally 2 takeaways. One is a negative takeaway, and one is a positive takeaway. One comes away uplifted, sometimes healed, sometimes with a positive message for humanity. And then there are those who come back and they're essentially traumatized, and they have a form of PTSD. Where are you on that spectrum?
I don't think I'm actually on either spectrum, but I definitely don't like the idea of being taken. And, once I realized that was happening, I was really, really scared, because that meant that when I went to bed at night, I didn't know about it. And so because I didn't know about it, I was just frightened, because how would I know that this was happening, and how come no one told me? So I was really upset. At first, I was just very, very frightened. And then afterwards, I became very angry, because there's no way I should have to deal with this. I have them not tell me. Nobody tells me. And then they're just taking me whenever they want. So I did not like that. And so I got mad. So can you hear me now? How is the sound?
Yep, I can hear you a little bit better. We just boosted the volume on our end, and I brought down my own mic, so I think we've got this worked out.
Okay, excellent.
But I am hearing a feedback of myself, but that's all right. I think we're okay. Did you have nightmares after this happened? Were there side effects that occurred?
I would have weird bruises on my body, and there was the normal, 3 fingers. It looks like 1 thumb.
Mhm.
I would have various, bruises that would be in a shape. They'd be in a Y, like it was a
Right.
stamp. I also had one that looked like a J and a P, or an S and a P, and I
So
didn't really know what that meant.
a Y, a J, an S, and a P.
Yeah.
And where were they? Were they like together, or were they just random?
They're random. What happened was, at first I wasn't taking any pictures, because I didn't realize I'd write a book and need pictures. But some of them were just so unusual, and where you can't make this stuff up. I just started taking pictures. And so I have a few. They're in my book on the Kindle. They're in my book on the print book also, but they didn't show up as well. But,
Okay, Lisa, I'm going to hold it right there. We're just having some audio issues. I'm going to go to a break. So everybody stand by. We'll be back hopefully sooner than later with Lisa O'Hara. Stand by. This is Alan B. Smith for KGRA Radio. I will see you in the comment section on YouTube and Facebook if there are any updates and changes to the show tonight, but I think we'll be able to get this together. So hold on. We will be right back.
Lost in a bad way, cost me my family. Chaos around me, can't hear my heart say, hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. Hey, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio App from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio App now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio App, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go, oh. Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
In 2019, the KGRA is closing down its archive vault to be reopened in another format in the near future. This year, you can get all the 2019 KGRA programming on demand on YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Play. More ways for you to stay connected to your contact. For alternative talk radio on the planet, KGRAradio.com.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal Now. This is Alan B. Smith. So, yes, we are still working on the technical aspects of our connection tonight, but hopefully we will be getting it together in just a moment. So, I'm going to see if we can bring on Lisa in the new stream and see if that makes a difference. Lisa.
Should I turn off the other one?
Yes.
Okay. I don't.
There we go. Okay, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Yeah, it's because I have. I'm one of those people that put something over their phone
Okay.
camera. So.
All right. Well, this. Hey, Bill. I'm gonna pull you on. Bill, how's the audio here?
We're okay so far. I think if Lisa could just come up just a little bit for the listeners, that'll work out just fine.
Okay. How's that?
That's better. If you can get as close as possible to the mic, we'll be all set and ready to go.
Okay. Well, then you can't see my face.
I think we'll handle it just the way it is. Alan, if you can, just lower your mic a little bit slightly down so we can compensate on it for her volume, and I can bring it up on both of you.
I got it, Bill. Thanks.
You're welcome. Have a great show.
All right. So yeah, Lisa, looks like we got it together. All right.
Okay. Yay.
So okay, I kind of lost where we left off, but what was your actual experience? Let's start there.
Okay, so I had my actual experience was that there were times when I was talking to my spirit guides and they said to me, I said, hey, there's something very, very negative in my room. Do you know what it is? And they said, yes. It's ETs. They're in here right now, and they've come to get you. And so when I heard that, I was really upset about it. And so I eventually started, trying to find out how to stop it. I did see some ETs. I saw praying mantises, a couple of them. One was trying to get me on her ship because I had hurt my leg, cut the top of my knee, and it started throbbing one night, and it turned out it was a beacon it was an implant that was beaconing to an ET to come fix it or get me on the ship. And I did not want to go.
A beacon implant?
Yes.
And what happened to the beacon?
I don't know, because the next day, they said the praying mantis was trying to get me on the ship, kept begging me to get on the ship to fix the implant, and I just kept saying no, because I didn't want to agree to go on a ship. I wanted to stay off the ship. So the next day, they put you to sleep, they knock you out. The next day, they actually, my leg didn't hurt anymore, and it wasn't throbbing, and it wasn't doing anything. So I don't know if they took it out or if they actually fixed it so that it wasn't throbbing.
There was no mark there?
Well, there was a mark there because I had I had cut myself with a recycling bin, and so of course I was able to, so I had a cut. So I thought at first that the cut was just throbbing, but it turns out it was something else. So yeah, there is still a scar there, but it doesn't throb, and it doesn't, call anyone to come pick it up.
Have you had any other potential implants?
I had one before I even figured all of this out. I had one in my groin. It was sort of like it. At first, I just thought it was an ingrown hair, but when I got rid of the ingrown hair, there was a hole underneath there, and so it felt like there's a little marble under the skin. So I kept, prodding it and poking it, and finally, it came out. But it was like a flesh marble. That's what it reminded me of, and it eventually just deteriorated into nothingness. So
right.
I don't even know what that was.
Okay, so how old were you? If you don't want to share your age, that's fine. But were you a child? Were you a teenager? Were you an adult? Where did any strange experiences begin for you?
Yes, when I was about 10, I used to live in Turkey, and I was having this weird daydream that kept popping up every single night. It would show me, and we had maids, and that was a really long time ago, but I kept seeing one of our favorite maids walking up the street, and I kept seeing that over and over and over every night. I couldn't get rid of this daydream, and then it came true. So it actually happened. So after that was when I was 10. When I was 11, I had these weird white lights that would show up in my bedroom, and they wasn't like a flashlight. It was more like it was like a flashlight with a piece of white paper over it. So it was sort of stationary, and they would show up and be put into my room, and then I would start screaming as if some part of me knew what that was, but I didn't, So that happened. Then I was living in California at the time, and I kept having the daydream started again, and they were at night, and they would say, "You're going to move to a foreign country." And since I moved all the time, I didn't want that to be true. So I kept thinking, no, I don't want to move. But we did. We moved to a foreign country. My senior year of high school, I moved to the Philippines. So, those are just some things that happened. After that, I would have these strange visions, is all I can think of what they were. I would be on a bus and going to my job in San Francisco, and I would see people around me, like as if they were on their weekend. One was at a barbecue, the other one was at a birthday party, the other one was sitting at home reading. And I started to think to myself, what is this? Because this is not normal.
Definitely not normal.
So, but what do? You
Right.
have these things that happen, but you have no one to talk to. They're not normal. You don't know how to classify them. You just put them away in your mind and think, I'm just going to hang on to this. I have no idea what this means. Then finally later, I was married before, and I would wake up screaming anytime my husband came into the bedroom, and all I could remember was a black rectangle. And so I had no idea. I went to therapy for that. I said, what in the heck is this? They said they have no idea what that is. So like I said, I just had to keep categorizing these weird little things that I couldn't explain. No one else ever talked to me about having these things happen to them. So I just had to sort of keep them in the back of my mind.
All right. So everyone who's listening, a friendly reminder, approximately 9:30, 9:40, I'll open up the Paranormal Radio App hotlines, and you can call in to ask Lisa your questions. And that number is 855-472-5483 or 85-KGRA live. So, Lisa, I mean, how do you know when something is a dream and something is an alien abduction experience?
You actually don't know, but what you have to do is you have to look behind it. While I was looking trying to figure out how to stop this from happening to me, I found a book by Stuart Swerdlow, which helped me a lot, and that's what's in my book, Tools to Stop the Abductions. But prior to that, I was reading all types of other books, and one of the things that I read was from Whitley Strieber about communion. He has a book, I'm sure everyone's heard of it. It talks about screen memories, because when you're in a stressful situation, when your mind can't handle what's going on, what happens is your brain comes up with something you can handle. And so that's actually called a screen memory. And so that most dreams seem to be screen memories, and they're not created by the ETs, they're created by us. They're our brain.
I'm sorry, is that like him seeing the owl eyes, that sort of thing?
I think so, but I think it's more of whatever or whenever you are looking at something, you think you're seeing one thing, but actually there's something else there, but your brain is telling you it's an owl.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess either they're failing and you're seeing through it if you see them, or are they being successful? Like, for instance, praying mantis. Were you seeing an actual like large praying mantis, or was it an alien entity that reminded you of a praying mantis?
It was actually a praying mantis, and that's what made me so in some ways so scared at first, because that's not what I expected. I expected to see a gray, or you know what I mean? I expected to see something that I had heard of before. I didn't expect to see a praying mantis. And so when I saw it, I was just sort of stuck in place. I wasn't frozen. I could have moved, but I just could not believe what I was seeing. And I was just fascinated. I was just sitting there staring and looking at it in disbelief.
Lisa, I'm going to get this question in now. This is from Rodrigo Vieira. And the question is, does Lisa think there's a technology present, or is it quote unquote spiritual?
I actually don't know. I mean, I think that it might be a projection of our mind, not technology and not spiritual. But it could be something that we're made to see, as opposed to seeing the truth. So.
And so what else happened to you? How many experiences did you have? Have you had?
I've had many experiences. I've had like 4 abductions a night. And some of the dreams, when you wake up and you find that you had a dream that somebody cut a piece of skin out of your heel and it's round. And then when you wake up and you have that exact skin removed from your heel,
sure,
then you know that happened. That was a truth, right? So but then later, when you start having very strange dreams about being on other planets or any other dreams that you have, after a while, you can just start using the tools that I found to look behind the dream, because that's basically what I found, was that I could look behind the dream and actually do basically a remote view.
Okay.
of your own mind. So you're going back in time. You're looking at what's behind the scene that you see in your dream. So you write it down. Then then whenever you can, you should go to dreams right away, because they will disappear. They'll just, dissipate. And then go back and look at them using these tools from Stuart Swerdlow, and look at everything and then write it down, and then just keep doing that, because eventually you'll become kind of immune to any of the fear that you feel when you're
where
waiting.
did the fear come from? Because obviously seeing these creatures alone would be scary, but was there more to it than that, or?
I don't know. I mean, I guess part of it was that I didn't expect to ever be an abductee. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, thank goodness that isn't me. But unfortunately it is. So there's that fear of the unknown, where you have no idea what's really happening.
Sure.
And, not knowing that, and since they erase our memories, it's just that, I guess your imagination can run wild about what's happening.
Yeah.
But since there's no transparency, you have no idea what's really happening. So I think that's probably mostly my fear. And then sometimes I would just get really, really negative feelings, and I wouldn't know if it was them making me feel this fear. I mean, are they conjuring up this fear for me? I don't know.
Is the fear, is that what creates the trauma that you felt afterwards?
Probably, yeah. But also, to have the bruises on your body,
Yeah.
to have not feel quite well, or maybe where it looks like you were cut, but then it's like either sewn back together or glued back together, where you have these little horizontal, all I can think of as, incisions on your body. Then you begin to really wonder, I mean, are they experimenting on me, and what are they doing? And a lot of that is just fear of the unknown, and especially when you have the aftermath, and then you can only imagine what they're doing. It's scary.
Yeah. Sometimes the body, it seems, can manifest its own, like for instance, stigmatas, right? Some people, it's theorized that their connection or belief to what happened to Jesus Christ is enough for their own body to sort of imagine it happening to them and creating wounds. Do you think that that's something that your body, your mind could do maybe, and create these letters or the markings?
I would say yes, but I don't think in this case that's true, because these bruises, they come up over time. So, you'll wake up and you won't have, you'll see a bruise, you'll see sort of like a bruise. And these are painful bruises. They're deep bruises. They're not the kind where, they're there one day and gone the next. They slowly over time start showing up. And when they do, they're really deep. It almost looks like someone has used a syringe and has, made little circles on your leg. And it's really odd. I mean, I theoretically could, I guess I could, or your mind could create them, but I don't know.
You
painful.
You have no association in your regular life with those markings, or
no.
And have you tried to decode those letters that you saw?
Yes, I've asked other people. A friend of mine thought that they look like musical notes, which I thought was interesting. I mean, but I'm not I asked my husband, who used to read music. He said that he didn't see that at all. So I don't know. Maybe it's just everyone's perspective or point of view on whether or not it looks like a musical note. But that to me looked like initials, almost like branding. That's how it felt, Are they branding me? Are they saying, no, this is SPs or JPs? Experiment. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that would be terrifying if you're being marked to be tracked. But as you say, they're removing them at the same time, right? Some of these markings.
No, they just fade over time. They're like a very deep bruise.
Okay. Okay, so they manifest more like a bruise.
Yes.
I see. Okay. So it's not an abrasion.
No.
Okay. So what do you do now? Well, here, you've had these experiences and they're ongoing. So how do you deal with that?
Well, initially because I thought I was a medium, and I maybe, but I didn't want to pursue it. I actually looked for someone to talk to about this, and I found a medium who initially was helping me become a medium if I wanted to go that route. But then when I found out that I was being abducted by aliens, I thought, well, I don't want to stop there. I want to find out what's going on here. And so she was trying to help me. She thought at first there were soul contracts that I had agreed to, which a lot of people think that happens. So we tried to break all the contracts. We tried everything. We tried, demanding our right to free will and demanding our sovereignty. And we tried just everything. I mean, I had a little manifesto that I would read before bed, commanding that I be left alone for my free will. And none of that worked. So eventually I just thought, I'm just going to try everything I can find on the web. So I did do that, and none of that worked. Prior to that, I had taken a couple classes with my medium, and one of the classes was on healing, on actually energy healing. And I took a class called Lahochi, Lahochi. And it's hands-on healing. So I was taking that and I was really into it because I'm an all-in girl. So if you have me, if I'm doing something, I am all in. So I was looking for healing books on Amazon, and I found a couple of books by Stuart Swerdlow. Stuart Swerdlow was in the Montauk Project, and I'm pretty sure I was reading a book about Montauk when I saw that Stuart Swerdlow had these healing books. So I went on Amazon, I bought a bunch of them, and my spirit guides at the time led me to the books to help me with this abduction scenarios. And at first I was just thinking, oh my gosh, these are so esoteric, I don't even know how to use these. But I had nothing to lose and I was desperate, so I tried it, and I found a couple of tools in there that have really, really helped me. And one of them is called the Brown X tool, and it's in a book called Healing Archetypes and Symbols. This is it, by Stuart Swerdlow.
Okay.
And the other one is Hyperspace Helper by Stuart Swerdlow. He is, okay, let me get that in there. Anyway, that is where you have a remote view. So what you do is you write down your memories or anything you remember in the middle of the night. So first what you do is you write it all down, then you go back to the Hyperspace Helper, and you go to the green spiral staircase, and you keep that the thought of that dream or memory in your mind, and you visualize yourself going down a green spiral staircase. This is in my book, but you can also get it from Stuart Swerdlow's book. Then when you feel the compelling need to step off the staircase, you do. And then you watch what was happening behind the scenes in that memory. So that's what you're looking at. You're going back in time and looking at that memory and seeing what's behind it.
I see.
And so when you see what's behind it, then you can use this other tool under the healing archetypes called the Brown X. And what you do is you say, I now Brown X out all unnecessary negativity in my life. And then you put a Brown X on whatever you see in that scene. Then you leave, and you do that fairly regularly. And what happens is over time, well, in the beginning, your brain shows you the gist of what's happening, not every gory detail. So if they're operating on you, you don't see that. Okay. You see the operation, but you might see the people or things operating on you, but you don't see exactly every nitty-gritty thing they were doing. You just need to see the gist.
Okay.
Then you use your Brown X tool. Then you go back up the stairs. You write down your experiences. When you do that, after a while, you won't feel as scared, but also you will be able to have sort of a story. What's really going on with me? Am I really being abducted? Who's abducting me? you know, trying to get rid of these negative entities. And so when I started using that, I really started noticing a difference. It seemed like a lot fewer abductions were taking place, and I was happier. I mean, I felt like I had a lot of work to do. But
did you feel lighter? You felt what?
I felt vindicated.
Okay.
Because I felt like before I really felt helpless.
Yeah.
And that I couldn't do anything about it, and they had all the power. But then when I turned it around and changed my perspective of, oh, they're the science experiment now, you know, then I felt a lot better.
Now, if you are having this sort of a revelation, I guess, do you think that would affect their interjecting themselves into your life if you are becoming self-aware of what's happening rather than what might feel like just an experiment? Wouldn't you think that they would say, "Oh, maybe we should back off"?
You would think that, but I don't think so, because I've noticed that the narcissist on Earth acts very similar to the ET. There actually could be one and the same. But a lot of times the narcissist says, oh, you're my victim, so I'm going to hold on to you as long as you give me pleasure, you know, or as long as I can torture you. And so that's how I see the ETs as narcissists. And they just want to torture me as much as possible because they get enjoyment out of it.
But like a good narcissist, they don't torture you so much to drive you away, right? They keep you coming back or do just enough.
Right. And I think that they, you know, I mean, if they kill you, I think they just bring you back to life and send you back home. I mean, I don't think that because they get so much enjoyment out of the torture, you know, as a narcissist does.
Yeah. See, that's such an interesting perspective. I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Free, maybe Ray Hernandez, but they did a study, and it sounds like about 80% of people who had abduction experiences eventually said that they saw their experience as something that's positive.
Yeah.
Over time, their perception of it changed. Has your perception changed at all?
No, it hasn't. I am still as determined to get them out of my life as I was. I don't feel any better about them. And I feel like they're just constantly watching me every minute. I mean, when I was writing my book, they were always making changes to my document. They were trying to drive me crazy. They would also change around things in my book. My editor said he got the willies from having to deal with, you know, this manuscript, because he would get in it. I would send it to him, and all of our comments would be reversed on the document, stuff like that. You know, things would be deleted. So I just think they like to be a nuisance, like a normal narcissist, and just want to, you know, annoy me as much as possible. And I also think that they're really listening to us all the time, and that's one of the things I kind of hit home a little bit in my book, because I used to be a trainer, and so I tried to, you know, train. But basically they're listening to us. So, you know, the way the narcissist pays close attention to who you are and what scares you and what upsets you and what your fears are, that's what they're doing. So I feel like they're just on a normal basis, they're just watching to see what else they can get away with.
Okay, so what would be the long-term game plan?
I don't know. It's a good question. For me or for them?
Well, for both. Let's start with them, if you have any sense.
I don't know. I feel like I have barely scratched the surface of what they're actually doing and why. Because here I am. I mean, I'm an older woman, so I'm 59. I just turned 59, and there's no reason, from my perspective, why they would want to continue taking me. So I just want them to stop, and so I don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
And what do you do?
What? I'm sorry?
And so what do you do now?
What do I do?
Yeah, what's your future?
Well, I'm continuing using the tools because I've actually been able to get rid of all but I think 2 groups. And so I'm continuing fighting, and I am spending, every night when I get my dreams, I write them all down. I also wake up in the middle of the night and write down whatever I remember. And then I continue on because this fight isn't over.
So you're going to help other people, right? I mean, that's kind of what the book is for, because there are so many people out there who are just lost, confused, sort of in a state of shock.
Yes. And that's exactly why I wrote the book. I wrote the book so I could spread the word about how I fought back, so that everybody else who's in the same position can also, see how I did it. They might not want to follow those, but if they do, there it is right there. They can, work on themselves, find out what their story is, because I don't think we all are being abducted by the same people. I'm not sure, because there's no way to know.
Right. Well, and that brings up a good question. I mean, how many aliens have you seen in total? Maybe, in the forefront, in the background?
I haven't seen that many, but when I go and look at the remote view, I've seen tons. I mean, I've seen spiders. I've seen people wearing a spider suit. I've seen spiders wearing people suits. I have just seen so many stuff. So many things. So I'm not really sure. I just keep seeing these strange creatures, and I'll see a lot of people too.
And what are the people doing?
A lot of times they are operating on me. Sometimes they're trying to get me to talk to them. Sometimes they put me into large vats of water. They're trying to get me to, do some sort of feat of I don't know what. It's some of these scenes you come kind of in the middle of it, and so you don't really understand the context of what's going on.
Do you think these people are aliens, or do you think that they're from Earth?
I think they're from Earth. Yeah. I think they're working with the aliens. I don't know why.
Okay. All right. So everyone listening, we're going to open up the phone line, the Paranormal Radio App phone line. That number is 855-472-5483 or 85-KGRA live. If you'd like to call in and ask Lisa your questions, the lines are open, and Bill is on standby to receive your call. When you first started talking about this, you mentioned you reached out to Terry Lovelace. Who were the first people that you started to share your story with?
I actually started to share it with MUFON. I contacted MUFON and filled out their questionnaire, and then I told the experiencer advisor, or I don't know what her title was, but I told her about it, and so she said, I've never heard anything like this before. So, and then afterwards, I also, I talked to my medium, I told her about it, but I didn't really talk to a lot of people because these situations you find yourself in are not conducive to talking about it with other people. I did look for people like me, and it was really hard. I couldn't find them. So I went to a couple of UFO groups. There's a meetup group here in Arizona, led by this one guy. I went to him and I told him about what the tools I had found. I explained it all to him. He said, you know what, I'm going to give you 15 minutes of fame. I'm going to let you talk in my group. And I said, okay. So I did that. And then I just tried, scaring up people that I thought were like me, because I thought the tools were just so fantastic, and I thought they could be used in other ways, in other areas, rather than just ET abductions.
Right.
But I couldn't find anyone like me, and that's another reason I wrote the book, was because I can't find the people to talk about what they're really experiencing. And a lot of the people that are talking about it are talking about how great everything is and how it's explained to them and how happy they are.
Well, how does that make you feel, though?
It makes me feel extra alone and isolated, actually. But I feel like there are other people like me out there. I just don't know where they are. And if I can find them, or if they can read my book and it can
Mhm.
help them, I would be really happy.
Well, we've got you and Terry.
Yeah.
So that's a start. I know Terry has said that his perception of it has changed a little bit. He doesn't necessarily view it quite as negatively, but overall, his experience was a terrible one. And what happened to his friend, who was also a witness with him, it's really tragic. And there, I know Kathleen Martin is doing work on abductions with MUFON abductees, but let's say you have a case like yourself. You don't have a doctor you can go to, right? Like you don't have someone like every time it happens you can report and say, please take a picture of this or test this or here's my story, and have someone scientifically actually study your case as time goes on to really learn about what's going on here. And if we were doing that with a multitude of different people, we might actually get to some understanding of what's occurring. Is there any hope in your mind that there will be a place where people can go to that is run by legitimate scientists that make this a mission in their life to help you and to learn?
Well, I think there are some, but I think some of them have already passed. I mean, I heard that there was a guy named Dr. Lear or Weir, and he used to, for free, look at your, little bumps or anything that moved under your arm or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't think a lot of people want to be involved in it at all. And that's one of the problems. Nobody wants to admit it. No one wants to talk about it. And so because of that, nobody who has a career in good standing wants to risk it. So I don't know. I don't know where to find one of those people.
All right. If you're listening, this is we got about 10 minutes left. If you want to call in and speak to Lisa, the number is KGRA Paranormal Radio App line 855-472-5483 or 85 KGRA live. So you're doing better now, right, Lisa, with how you are processing everything that's happened?
Yeah.
Now, if it happens again, are you prepared differently?
Well, yes, because one of the things that I found is they're all about fear. So anytime they come, they want you to be scared because you're more compliant. So that's what I think over time. I've just gotten less and less scared. And now when they come, the first thing I say is, I am not afraid. And I think that is a huge, powerful statement because now they have to figure out how to get me to sleep. They know I'm not afraid. And so none of their tricks work, because one of the things that they did try to do a couple of months ago was they were telling me, if you don't do what we say, we're going to kill your husband. And I said, oh, okay. Because sorry, but you're not going to get me to do what you want just by threatening me. And that's exactly what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to fall in line, and I wouldn't do it. So I think that's personally made me feel much more strong and confident. My helpless feeling has actually dissipated. It's gone. It's completely gone. So now it's just a war between me and them.
We have a comment from Martin, and he says, I laugh at them, and then they go away. Does that work for you?
No.
No.
For some reason, I am just so fascinating to them that they have to take me anyway. So, but that's good. Good job.
I mean, if it works, right?
Yeah.
But that begs the question, I don't think I heard you describe the typical gray alien.
I have seen the grays, but I've sort of seen the shadows of a gray. Once, actually, it was interesting. I was getting up I had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, and I had to put on my slippers because I live in Arizona where there are scorpions, and you don't want to be stepping on one of those in the middle of the night. So I put on my slippers. I walked off to the restroom. And when I sat down, I saw a little gray. But this gray was sort of slender and kind of whitish looking, and about 5'7", because I'm 5'10", so I was sitting across the room from it, and then it just disappeared. So I don't know, that's pretty much all I've seen. I haven't seen very many grays. And so I don't know if that puts me in a different class, or I don't know.
Yeah, well, because I wonder, some aliens maybe are a different species and do different things, and are kinder, and maybe some are not. And I'm just wondering if if we can sort of differentiate between the two. But it sounds like you're having so many experiences with so many different aliens. It kind of almost throws that whole theory out the door.
Yeah. It's different. And so that's why I have to think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have to think that they're all hostile, because why would they continue taking me even though they know I don't want to go? Why would they continue erasing my memory, making me go to these links? I don't know. Maybe they think eventually I'll give up, but they're wrong. I'm never giving up.
Right. And what are you fighting for?
What am I what?
What are you fighting for?
I'm fighting for the free will that I don't have to go anywhere at night anymore with them. With whoever wants to take me, I do not want to go. I want to stay home. I want to be free. So that's what I'm fighting for.
You would think that the government, U.S. government, would be interested in these cases and following up with abductees. Have you ever been contacted by anyone, maybe under the guise of something else that you suspect would have been governmental?
No, I haven't. But I have had problems with my computer, and I think that they're on our phones, they're on our computers, and I do think that they are aware of these things that are going on. What they're really doing behind the scenes, I have no idea. I wish they'd come clean and say, we know this is happening and we're working on it, or we're going to help you. But it just seems like we're all left to our own devices.
Yeah. That's often the case. I mean, whether you're an experiencer or you've witnessed something bizarre, you kind of feel like you're just left floating out in this wonderland of now what?
Yeah.
And how does this make you feel about, I don't know if you're religious or spiritual, but your relation to your existential existence, your purpose in life? Does it shake any of your beliefs?
I was actually sort of not atheist, but not thinking there was anything there until I started meditating. And also, one of my tools to get rid of the ETs is Yahweh, which is a Hebrew way of saying God. And so I was really surprised to find out how much that worked, and that did change my thinking a little bit about what was really out there, because before I really just felt like when I was praying to the air. But now I'm not so sure, because why would Yahweh, that one word, make so much of a difference with the ETs? Why would it scare them? Why would it cause, me to feel better? What's going on?
I see. I've had such mixed feelings about this because let's just say, yes, you're invoking, if there's a God, right? You're invoking God or Jesus or whomsoever, and it's effective. Why do you need to call on them to get their help? Why wouldn't they just help anyway?
I don't know. That's a good question. But I think it's maybe has something to do with you have to ask for help. If you need it, then they'll step in. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me. But, when I got to the point of not needing to call them, I really felt like I'd come a long way, because I knew I could stand on my own. But I think when you're really, really scared and you're trying to stay awake because they're there, you can feel them. You can hear their little noises that they make. You're feeling very vulnerable and helpless. And so it's important to be able to call on someone will help you, and you can feel in the air. It's really odd, actually, but their negative feeling just wafts away. It's sort of like you're feeling negative, and you're scared, and you're tensed up, and then you just relax, and those feelings just go away. And so it's really comforting to be able to do that.
Do these experiences affect your relationship with technology?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually still have Windows 7, and I do unplug my computer from the Ethernet every night, because I just don't know what the purpose of getting on my computer is. I've had multiple problems with it. Things I'll be unplugged for the internet, and then the next day I'll have these strange things I'd never heard of that are actually Windows tools on my desktop. Like the snipping tool. I didn't know that was a Windows feature, or magnify. So these shortcuts, or recently used, will be on my desktop. My computer is unplugged from the Ethernet, and I'm a former IT person too. So it's like, well, how are they doing it? I did see a thing recently about air hopping, where they're able to use the radio waves from your computer and have someone type and have it appear on another person's screen, on another person's iPhone.
Yeah.
So these are technologies of that we've never heard of, or we don't know much about. So,
well, it seems to me that a lot of people who have high strangeness experiences and frequently often have issues with technology and interference and glitches and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely do. My phone regularly acts up, and I think it's interesting that we have so much trouble, because I've been on StreamYard other times, and everything's worked fine. So why now? Why is this call so important that they had to muck it up? I don't know.
Well, maybe they suspected you might reveal something they've been trying to wipe your brain with.
Exactly. They probably are worried about that.
Well, what about how is your relationship with just people who are close to you in your life? I mean, even if they accept what has happened to you, it still must be a hard thing for them to process as well.
Yes. Well, my husband is really pretty good, but he doesn't disbelieve it, but he's not sure. He hasn't had an experience like that. So he's also kind of sciencey, and so I think it's hard, but he does try to be supportive, but whether he believes it or not. My other family members, some people know about it, some people don't. I think it's just, some people think I'm just totally brave for actually saying it, but I don't really think that. I think that it's important to talk about it, because the more you talk about it, then the more mainstream it becomes, and the more that helps all the other people who don't feel comfortable talking about it. So I don't know. I think I have lost some friends over it, but I think my purpose here is to write this book. And so I have written it, and I will, continue with my journal, and we'll write another book. So.
Okay. Oh, you're planning a second book?
Yes.
Oh, and what's the follow-up?
It'll be more about what I've learned, because I have learned so much from just a year ago that is scary. I've just totally gone from one extreme to the other, and and I think part of it is it's how I figured out what's working, what's not working. But you do have to work the system. So whoever is using this book, I hope you will continue using it and finding your own discoveries. I'll write another book and tell you what I saw, but I hope that other people will start talking about it, and maybe even write their own books and say, I use these tools too. Yeah. And guess what? This is what I found. This is what I saw. Because we all need to talk about it more. We need to not hide. And that's what's happening now, is everyone's hiding. Yeah. Or, I'm not the only one that this has happened to.
No, of course. And if you can, bring all of that experience together and your own insight, maybe you can find a solution together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, I put the link to Abducted and Furious How I Fought Back and How You Can Too, A True Story by Lisa O'Hara. The Amazon link is on Facebook and YouTube right now. And Lisa, where else would you like people to go to connect with you, to find out more about your story?
They can find me on Facebook at Abducted and Furious. They can also email me at abductedandfurious@yahoo.com. And I also have a website, lisaoharaonline.com.
lisaoharaonline.com. All right. Well, do you want to leave us with anything that we haven't covered that you think is important?
Okay, let me see. Let's see. Yeah, I hope that everyone just, let's see, what do I think that everyone should just, if this is happening to you, you're not alone. Reach out to someone. If you get my book, read through the tools. It's all there that you need. Reach out, because we all need each other. We all need to share information and and talk about it. I mean, I know it's hard because the fear is real.
Yeah, no matter what it is, you need to find others that you can relate to and share your stories with.
Right. There is an opusnetwork.org. Is it .org? opusnetwork.org. That's a good place to share stories, but it's really interesting. When I've been there, I mean, there is everything. I mean, there are things I've never heard of before.
Right.
So, some of them have, I think, got my book. I hope it's helping them. But, there's just so many different experiences. It's unreal, actually.
Sure. All right, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry we had so many problems.
No, that's all right. We'll blame it on the aliens and cross our fingers for next time. So.
All right.
Okay. Thanks so much, Lisa. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in tonight. It happens. Those of you who know Heidi Hollis, who's been on this program many a time, we also had a conversation with Maureen Seberg. These are empaths. They're synesthetes. And it just happens. Technology gets a little funky around high strangeness. And that's we just kind of got to roll with it. So thank you all for listening tonight. Thanks again to Lisa. Ron, if you're listening, I hope you're feeling better, and I wish you to feel better soon. Charles, Carol, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And Kevin, it's been a really fun time just being a part of KGRA. I've met so many cool people and have had so many great conversations. Every time you think you know a little something about a subject, someone comes in and gives you their perspective, and it opens up a whole other can of worms. The paranormal is sort of like a fractal. Once you start going down that path, it just keeps expanding. So thank you again, everyone. Join us next week, Saturday, 8 p.m. to Eastern Standard Time, 10 Eastern Standard Time, and check out all the other KGRA radio shows on kgrradio.com. This is Alan B. Smith for Paranormal Now. Until next time, live in the mystery.